Whenever it comes to PvPing, what is the most important part about your build? I'll give you a moment to think about it. No, you fool. It is not how powerful your weapon is. It's all about that fashion, baby. Let's go. That is right. Your fashion is literally everything in these games. What's the point of winning if you look like a nerd or using some ugly overpowered weapon that literally everyone else is using? That's why today I'm going to bring you the true fashion with the sexy weapon known as the Judge Clerics Corrupted Sword. This sword alone is the pinnacle of what standard fashion should look like for a weapon. It's a longsword weapon that is corrupted and broken up into tiny pieces that float around the weapon going back and forth. It has a black blade with a glowing deep red aura around the blade, making it absolutely stunning to look at. But going away from the whole fashion sexy looking sword, because this thing isn't just about its beauty, it's also got the power to back it up. Something that's insanely unique about this weapon is that it is actually a quality weapon. It scales off of strength, dex, radiance, and even inferno, needing 13 levels in strength and dex and then 20 in both radiance and inferno. This is the best, most powerful quality build weapon. And then of course, since it scales off of both radiance and inferno, on top of its high physical damage, it also does a decent amount of holy plus fire damage, allowing this weapon to hit huge damage numbers for something that's still pretty fast. At my current level, the sword has a 603 attack power, but I do have a friend who's around level 200 with both 50 in Radiance and Inferno. He's rocking around 1,000 attack power on this weapon, so it does not just stop there. It's definitely not something like my last video going over the Bloody Glory Greatsword, where that weapon just absolutely one-shots everyone. But this weapon still has enough damage to usually 2-shot, sometimes 3-shot players, which is crazy for just a longsword and not this large, slow weapon. Going back into the whole quality build aspect, what's nice about this weapon is depending if you want to go Radiance or Inferno, this weapon just works for any build. For me, I went primarily focusing into Inferno with 40 levels in it. On this level 99 build, I then put in 21 into Radiance to meet that requirement for this weapon, gain a little extra mana. Then we went into 13 in both Strength and in Agility, again for the requirements to even use the weapon. And then the rest of our levels, we put into 30 Endurance, 35 into Vitality, so we aren't completely useless going to be getting one-shot ourselves. As for the pendant, I have on the Pendant of Burden, which just makes it so that enemies take more damage the more the status effects that are actually on them. Even though this weapon doesn't actually apply any statuses, my spells do, so that's just an extra damage bump. So I'll be setting players on fire with my spells alone, including my flame buff on my weapon. Now for the rings that I'm rocking, one of them is going to be the Dark Crusader's ring, which basically just gives me a little bit extra healing after using the heal itself. And then the other ring is going to be the Infernal Devotion, which allows me to inflict Ignite buildup simultaneously when building up the fire status. It's basically just giving us an extra chunk of damage, so that's always nice. So this weapon is very satisfying to use since it's got that high damage, can work with any build, and the main thing is how you're not stuck using a greatsword being locked into that long and slow animation when swinging. And then of course the longer recovery points after swinging. So using this weapon, you are definitely a lot better at PvP with it since you're not always going to be stuck in these animations. So clearly if you're against using these slow weapons but want the power of almost a greatsword, then this weapon is absolutely perfect for you. As for the best ways of using this weapon, there's a lot of versatility to it. The biggest problem is actually the lack of momentum though, meaning that not a lot of its attacks actually go as far as you would hope they would. For example, the first heavy attack does a poke for high damage, but as you'll see in this video, a lot of the time I'll use that poke, but it will stop just centimeters away from my opponent because I assume it might, step forward into the attack, but it really does not at all. Its running attacks are very slow, especially the running heavy attack, because your character does this weird little twirl around before swinging, causing you to take too long to actually even punish most players if they're attempting to heal or run from you. On top of when you actually use it, your character seems to not keep up with your average running speed and slows down a bit during the twirl, so it's kind of bad for relying on outspacing your opponent. The basic attack does fast slashes left and right, but once again your character hardly steps into them, but that's kind of alright in this case. Because once you're in on your opponent, these wide swings are very nice for catching players mid-roll if you delay some attacks during your combo. So they might be able to do a dodge through your first attack, but if they're rolling into you, just hold off on that combo chain for like half a second, let it go, and then it is very good for catching people rolling into you. Since this weapon isn't a pure small fast weapon type, it definitely still struggles against things like Pieda's sword because it has that long range and is very fast, and since that seems to be the meta everyone is using now, you will see it a lot, so your best bet is learning how to either parry or get a really good shield to just block them so you can get in close, because once you're close, this weapon has the potential to just outdamage any trade with them. Facing off against heavy weapons is fine as long as you just mind your spacing, since they have a longer range, and like I said a second ago, this thing's momentum really throws you off at times. So you think you might bait an opponent to swing at you, and then you go for the counterattack just to be left an inch short from hitting them. Overall, this weapon is very powerful, and as I've said, the capabilities of being a quality weapon just make it that much better, since no matter what build you go for with this weapon will just work no matter what. So it's definitely amazing for any build. Anyways, you guys, that's going to do it for me. I give the Judge Clerics Corrupted Sword 8 out of 10 Assault Shakers, since that's how many people you'll probably end up making salty when using this weapon and getting your free little 2-shots. But I'm going to head out now, everyone, so enjoy the rest of these PvP clips and enjoy the rest of your day. Peace.